Hi, I'm Officer Leslie Badger. I'm the Animal Control Officer for the town of Hingham, and you're watching Getting to Know Your Government on HCAM-TV. I've been the Animal Control Officer here in Hingham for almost 5 years now. I got started in this because I love animals. I've always loved animals. I started as an assistant in Marshfield, and then Hingham had an opening for their animal control department. And when I interviewed, they asked if I wanted to, instead of working part-time, be their full-time animal control officer. And I agreed to that, and it opened a lot of doors for me, and so I am their full animal control officer. We are here today at Fox and Hound Pet Care in Hingham on Beale Street. This is where I bring most of my stray animals. They're a huge help to me because when we do have, especially dogs that wander, this is the place that I do bring them to on a regular basis, and they help care for them until I can find their owners and reunite them.
Shortly after I opened my business here, Leslie and the Cohasset animal control officer came to me and asked if I would be interested in partnering with them since both towns have no shelter. So, of course, I came into this business to help animals, and I was more than happy to serve as the town shelter. Leslie has since started working for Hull, and so now I take stray dogs or loose dogs from Weymouth when she's substituting for the Weymouth ACO, Cohasset, and Hull, and Hingham, of course. She just started doing Hull, but we've been working together for, I'd say, probably 2 years now. Also during storms, if we're going to have a hurricane watch or tornado watch, which we have had a few times, we'll serve as the town's shelter for animals. We're open to the public at that point. So if they need to evacuate from their homes, they're more than welcome to bring their dogs here. We'd probably not be the best place for cats, but we will take other animals if there's no other location for them to go. We'll find a spot in here for them.
So this is my buddy Tank. He has stayed with me this past summer. I fostered him for over 2 months. And how I got involved with Tank was he was actually an owner surrender to one of the rescue groups that I work with, Big Fluffy Dog. And they gave me a call and let me know that in one of the towns local to Hingham, there was a dog that may have been neglected, and they weren't sure, and they asked if I could go over and check it out. And on my time off, I went over and checked it out, and sure enough, he was in horrible, horrible condition, living in a backyard. And I let the owners know that this was definitely deplorable, and that he needed a better life. And they agreed, and they handed him over to me. He's 3 years old. He's really well behaved. He's such a good boy. He does have a new amazing home with a great, great family. I'm so excited about. They're actually good friends of mine, and he comes here to Fox and Hound. And I think when I got him, he's actually a Great Pyrenees. And if you don't know what a Great Pyrenees is, they're, as you can see, a big, fluffy dog, but his fur is even more when he's fully grown out. It's big and puffy, and unfortunately, his fur was so badly matted from head to toe that he had to be shaved from head to toe. The mats were so bad you didn't even know where his tail was because it was matted from his back to the side of his leg. His back legs were all matted together, and he was just miserable. He was positive for Lyme, and he had a few other issues going on. So I made it my mission to keep him. I have 2 small dogs at home, and now a third one. But I made it my mission before this third one came that I was going to take care of him and get him on the road to recovery. And now he's doing great, and I get to see him all the time. And I'm happy for him because he is such a good dog. Basically, my general duties, I'll probably start with, because people always ask my hours. I'm here Monday through Friday, usually from 9 to about 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And during those hours that I'm here is anything from dealing with the phone calls that come in for wildlife, stray dogs, nuisance, barking dogs, situations that revolve around rescuing an animal, whether it's fallen through the ice or hit by a car. Those are the big things that I deal with. Otherwise, there's the small things like roadkill. There's, following up on quarantines and making sure, the dog park is being run smoothly, which is Bear Cove Park. It's not really a dog park, but a lot of our dogs do go there, so I have to make sure and police that as much as I can and make sure people are following the rules there. I think the best way that the Hingham citizens can definitely utilize the department is, whenever they have an animal issue. Everyone knows I'm always around. I'm here to help. I want to help. But we also have to make sure that it's things that need attention that they can't handle on their own. If you have an animal, I don't mind. If you have an animal run through your yard and you don't know what it is and you're not sure why, feel free to call. I'm more than happy to explain to you what it's about and what's going on. It's very important. If we have a dog that's running loose and you see it, definitely let me know so that way I can get it back to their owner as quick as possible. It might be one that's been out for a little while, and getting that sighting is a huge help in getting that, again, dog back to its owner. Also in the sense of where you have emergencies, and I'm well trained and able to respond to almost any emergency, as in where we've had in the past dog falling through the ice or hit by cars. So I can help. We've also had dogs that have choked on tennis balls, and I'm certified for that. I've got the first aid, the CPR, and responding to a few different things. So I think it's very important for the citizens to know that I'm here and I do want to help versus, just animal control and I pick up dead roadkill on the side of the road.
Well, welcome to the New England Wildlife Center. We're two things here. We are the only full-service teaching hospital in the entire Northeast that treats only wildlife. We're not interested in your dogs or cats. This is where you take that bird with a broken wing that you find out in your backyard, or maybe that turtle with a broken shell that was trying to make it across the street. You bring us that bird, we fix its wing, set it free. You bring us that turtle, we fix its shell and set it free. And just last August, this past August, we are proud to announce we released our 100,000th wild animal. We give the same tender, loving care to the tiniest little field mouse and little brown bat that we do to coyotes and foxes and raccoons. People like yourselves bring us animals that are sick, injured, or orphaned, as well as the SPCA, the Animal Rescue League, and animal control officers from throughout the state, mostly South Shore, but we get folks from Boston and some North Shore animals as well. One of our favorite ACOs, of course, is Leslie, and she comes to us from Hingham, and she's always very pleasant. We're always glad to see her coming. Some folks are kind of grouchy, but Leslie isn't. She's really good to work with. She's brought us many animals over the years. We have one animal in-house now, if you'd like to see it, that Leslie brought in. Come with me to the med ward. We have very few animals in there because things in the wild are kind of settling down right now, not a lot of activity. We have a broad-winged hawk with a fractured chest, a spotted turtle with a broken lower shell, a mallard with a fractured left leg, and a red-tailed hawk with a broken chest bone as well. And one of those hawks, either the broadtail or the red-tail or the broad-winged, was brought to us by Leslie, and I'm not sure which one it was. So why don't we introduce you to Marco, our vet tech, and he'll probably even be able to show us that hawk.
So I don't know exactly what she found. She found it in Hingham. Somebody called her, and that he was on the side of the road. And we call it she because we assume she's a female because it's really big. And so they did x-ray yesterday. It didn't show any breaks. And so she's eating great. And I guess we'll see how she's gonna do eventually. We didn't fly test her yet. Probably next week. We usually keep her a week. And in the meantime, it's treated with deworming because they have parasites all the time, and antibiotic. And she was on fluids, but she's eating so great now, so we stopped to give the fluid because she's self-feeding very good.
Dealing with wild animals, you can contract any number of zoonotic diseases. zoonotic diseases, any disease that
That's
is
what rabies is.
transferable between humans and at least one species of animal. Obviously we have rabies. That's the one you think of first. When it comes to raccoons, there's also a little thing called Balis ascaris procyanus, more commonly known as raccoon roundworm. And ACOs like Leslie always take a risk when dealing with wildlife, because she could contract any number of these diseases. She has to be very careful. She was carefully trained to avoid that sort of thing. Of course, she had to get her rabies shots before she could become an ACO. So it's quite a way to make a living.
So rabies can be spread only by saliva or blood, what do you call it, body fluid?
Mm-hmm.
And so if an animal or a person gets exposed to wildlife, can be like raccoon, bats, skunks, coyotes, so is required to be, if the animal it needs to be euthanized, to be, if the animal run away, you can't do anything. But if you are able to catch the animal, it needs to be tested and to see, to protect people and pets for potential to have rabies. And the only way to test them is they have to do a test on the brain. So the animal, after euthanized, we have to send to the state lab the head of the animal. They do like the test on the brain. So the only way to test the rabies. So.
Falco is our red-tailed hawk in residence, and he's a magnificent bird. He's a little over 2 years old. Marco named him, Falco means hawk in Italian, and he's a red-tailed hawk. The red-tailed hawk is the largest hawk. If our eyes were as good as his eyes, we could look out the window of an airplane and see something as small as a rabbit down below. He can look up from the top of a tree and look down at the forest floor and see a leaf moving, and he will know that there's a mouse underneath that leaf, and he'll dive down and grab that little mouse and bring him up to his tree and have lunch.
I want to say a couple of words about Leslie Badger, the animal control officer for the town of Hingham. I've worked with her, I'm guessing, in something on the order of 6, maybe even 7 years. She's been a great asset to the town of Hingham, and she's also been a real help and assistance to the New England Wildlife Center. A lot of towns in the state of Massachusetts, I think there's 52 total towns that have animal control officers. And in many of those towns, the animal control officer really just focuses on dogs and cats. That's not the case with Leslie. Leslie is very interested and knowledgeable about all of the kinds of animals, both domestic and in addition to all the wildlife that are in the area. And Leslie does a great job of looking out for the coyotes and the snapping turtles and the gray squirrels and the hummingbirds and the songbirds and all the little mammals and reptiles in the town, of which there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of wild area in Hingham. When you consider the shoreline, you consider Bear Cove Park, Wampatuck, and all those areas. In particular, Leslie has been a great help to the Wildlife Center in being able to bring those kinds of animals into the center, but then she's also able to take the message back. In other words, she can talk about the animals that she's brought into the townspeople and explain to them what they can do or maybe what they shouldn't do in regards to the wildlife in those areas. And in addition to that, Leslie also is a great assistant to the whole community. When she comes to the center, we often need an extra hand. She's a very skilled handler of wild animals, and she's able to lend a hand in that regard, and she's able to make our day go a little bit easier when she comes to the center. So it's been an honor to say a few words about Leslie. I was just recently at the grand opening of a new facility of the Animal Rescue League in Dedham, and I was surprised and not surprisingly, but nevertheless, I was surprised to see a commemoration on the wall to a brand new ward at the Animal Rescue League that is in honor of Leslie Badger. And I think it's a real testament to who she is and what she does for the community. Thank you.
The New England Wildlife Center has been around for 29 years. We've only been in this facility since August of '06. We had our grand opening. But we have had a facility in Hingham where Leslie works for some time now. And it's right next to Bear Cove Park, and it's where we release many of our larger animals. I imagine that it's also where we have gotten some animals as well, some wildlife that were in need of help.
So it's very easy to contact me. There's a few different ways that you can go about it. The main way that everyone pretty much uses is contacting me through my office. That line is open 24 hours. Whether I'm there to pick up the phone or not, I always check in the best I can, and I get back to someone between 24 and 48 hours as quickly as I can. Because again, with covering 2 towns, that can be a lot of trying to get back to everyone. So that number is 781-741-1490. Again, that's the office number. If you have an emergency that needs immediate attention, the best number, obviously, if it's a dire emergency, is 911. That goes straight to the police department. You want to state clearly which town you're in, what the emergency is, and they'll get me out there right away. If it's not a dire emergency, but something that does need immediate attention, you can also call the business line of the police station, and that's the 781-749-1212 and option 0. Another thing you can do is if you don't want to leave a message, you can always email. If you go onto our website at the town of Hingham, you'll be able to find me at my website. It's still a work in progress, but it has all the basic information up there. You can definitely email. You can email, and I can get back to you too right away. And that's another form of communication that we do have now. Like any town, in the town of Hingham, there are rules and regulations that go along with animal control and that the residents are expected to follow. We have, the simple ones that people always are questioning about dogs being leashed or unleashed, what's allowed. Dogs can be unleashed in the town of Hingham if they are under voice control. And people question what this voice control means. Voice control means that the dog has to be within 3 to 5 feet of you at all time. And that's pretty close. It's not, wandering way off. So the dog's got to be pretty close to you. The other big thing with voice control is the dog has to, when you say, and it's not screaming on your loudest voice possible, it's you saying in a normal talking voice, come here, sit. And the dog comes to you and sits. And you can put a leash on the dog and hold it at bay if there's a situation that arises. But having a dog run, 30 feet ahead of you and screaming on the top of your lungs to get a dog is not acceptable in the town of Hingham as voice control. Otherwise, if your dog can't follow that, it has to be leashed. And if I go out and I see a situation like that arising, then it will create a situation where the person has to be fined or warned, depending on the situation. Also, it's very important in all towns, especially Hingham, that a dog needs to be vaccinated. Spay and neuter is optional. I promote it. Every animal should be spayed or neutered. But to get a dog license, it is optional. You don't have to have it spayed or neutered. However, again, I prefer it to be spayed or neutered. If you're looking for a dog license, all you have to do is bring an updated rabies certificate to the town clerk's office, and the girls there will be more than happy to issue a dog license. It also entails a small deposit. It's a little bit more if your dog isn't spayed or neutered. And if your dog is spayed or neutered, it's a low fee, and depending on if your dog's rabies certificate is 1 year or a 3 year, will depend on how good your license is for.
Hi, I'm Liz McBarish from the town clerk's office, and this is the office that you come to get your dogs registered in Hingham. And you need to bring your dog's vaccination certificate from the veterinarian, and once you do that, we put that information into the computer and you pay for the license. You can get a 1, 2, or 3 year license, and after you pay that, you get your tags. This is what the tags look like. They're cute little heart-shaped tags.
Because not only is it important to know that your dog is up to date on its shots, but if your dog did get loose and I was able to get that animal, it makes it a lot easier for me to get it back to them. Also, it's really important to make sure that if you are a dog owner, or any animal for that matter, that your animal is not a nuisance to its neighbors. You want to make sure it's friendly, that it's staying in its own yard, that it's not barking constantly if you leave it out, if you go out for the day and you decide to leave it out for the day. The other big issue as well is making sure that if you are walking your dog, there is a $50 fine if you don't pick up the poop, and that is a big thing in Hingham. When it comes to public areas like the beach or the golf course or Bear Cove Park, for example, with the beach, there's set times. In the summer, dogs should not be on the beach at all. That's for people to enjoy. In the winter months, that's fine. Dogs can go out there. The same with the country club. That is more of, it's country club, it's for golfing. It's not for dogs. I know they have a dog over there, I believe it's still there, that chases the geese away. Occasionally they'll let one or two other dogs go out and do the same thing, but it's not really a place to take your dogs. The place is where people tend to bring their dogs is Bear Cove Park. And that's a big issue in town because everyone wants to bring their dogs there, which is fine, but they have to understand that there are rules and regulations that need to be followed when they're in there, because so many people with their dogs go in there, and it's not just for the dogs. It's for anyone that wants to use it for bike riding, having a picnic, you know, going for a walk. They don't want to be trampled. So it's important that people understand if they decide to bring their dog there and take it for a walk, that they've got to have a leash with them. The dog's got to have their tags on. You got to have poop bags. If you don't have any of that stuff, then you know, you're going to have an issue with me in the sense that, you know, I'm going to have to write you up a fine. And they each start at $50 and go up from there if you are missing any of those items when you go into Bear Cove Park. Because that is, again, the most popular spot to bring your dogs here in Hingham. Some people go to Wampatuck, that is a state park. Same with Stoddard's Neck, it is a state park. And they run that and have their own rules and regulations. Same with Turkey Hill, and but again, Bear Cove especially, or the beach, you really need to be respectful of the rules and regulations. Otherwise, unfortunately, you will be fined.
I'm Steve Gammon, and I'm the supervisor of Wampatuck State Park. The larger wildlife that you find in Wampatuck State Park are deer, coyote, red fox, gray fox, raccoons, and skunks, woodchucks, things like that. There's no deer hunting anywhere in Wampatuck State Park at this point. We have quite a large deer population, however. There is other hunting of upland game birds, rabbit, there is coyote hunting, and there is raccoon hunting by special permit. Usually if we find an animal and an animal's injured, we call the Division of Law Enforcement officer, and they'll usually take care of the animal.
This is a huge wildlife town, and I urge people before they decide to move here to actually really research it, because we do have a lot of parks. We've got Wampatuck State Park, we've got Bear Cove, we've got the town forest, and all of those combined equal a lot of wildlife. We do have situations where we've got a lot of coyotes, foxes, fisher cats, turkeys, and they're free to roam. As long as they're not causing any problems and they're not sick and a nuisance, they're free to stay and to live where they like to live. I need to be able to carry things in my pocket, because when you're dealing with an animal, you need to have things that you can grab right away. So I always have stuff in my pocket, like an extra leash. I've got a knife, because you never know when you're going to need to cut something, and it's easier to have it with you at all times. A pen, my phones, keys. Also, I carry on myself. I have my portable radio that links me to the police and fire. I've got a flashlight. I've got mace, my badge, and a Leatherman that always comes in handy as well. These are all my different kinds of muzzles, because you never know when you could need one. All different sizes and colors. I've got leashes and collars too, because sometimes you encounter a dog that doesn't have one on, and it's easier to get one on them than not having one. Hearing protection for if we have to shoot a gun. Just different pieces of equipment that can come in handy, because you never know what you're going to need. Tyvek suits, if you go into a house that is really bad and full of a lot of animals, or you're dealing with a skunk, they come in handy. Duct tape, you know, all the standard stuff. Food for if to set a trap, and flashlights, and all kinds of stuff to care for an animal. This is my first aid kit that I use for any animal emergency that requires first aid. I've got everything in here from, bandages to watering bowls, my stethoscope. I've got the water if they need it. I've got the oxygen masks. But this is an oxygen mask for larger size animals. If they're not breathing or if they're in a fire situation, this comes in really handy. We can hook it up to the oxygen tank and give animals fresh oxygen. So I've got the size from the really big all the way down to the very little for cats and small dogs. So I try and keep my first aid kit stocked as best I can. This is the other size. This is the inside of my animal control van. As you can see, it's nothing glorious. It's a minivan that has a lot of cages and equipment in it. The big one is usually used for all size dogs that you can put in there because it's not really outfitted with the special animal control cages. But I also have smaller ones for birds and small animals. This one's great for wild animals. I've got a trap over there for catching critters that are not able to be caught quickly. So this giant net here is used from anything from putting over a good sized dog or catching a large bird or a small bird. It's really great because it is very deep. There we go. This is basically used to apprehend a dog that may be in an aggressive state that we don't want to put ourselves too close to because it could bite us or get away. And this is actually called a rabies pole. And not only do we use it for dogs, but we can also use it for wild animals that we don't want to touch either. If we have a stray dog, the situation is usually it got out from a house. Otherwise, the other reason, unfortunately, is because people are dumping them, and that is our greater problem we're having in Hingham. People seem to be dumping their dogs quite frequently, and other smaller animals too, because, and I hate to say it, the economy or they just can't care for the animal anymore, and I don't condone that behavior at all. It just, it's better to at least call me and say, I can't take care of this animal, I don't know what to do, and I can try and direct you into a place where you can bring that animal versus, just dumping it on the side of the road. Because there is a whole chain of events that happens afterwards that I have to deal with and that animal could potentially go through. And we've had circumstances where animals are literally dumped on the side of the road and then they're hit by cars and then they're left running all around injured until I can catch them. And then they're so worked up and frightened and scared that they just become so incredibly vicious that there's nothing I can do except put them down. So it's really important to get it out to people that if you just can't care for your animal anymore, instead of just leaving it on the side of the road, to call me, call another animal control officer, call a shelter and ask what options you have because they're out there and we want to help. It's better than to just leave them on the side of the road. I think my favorite part of the job, and I know most people will say to me, oh, you must love the puppies and kittens. It's not really puppies and kittens. My favorite part is I don't know what's going to happen day to day. I don't know what's going to happen hour to hour. It's just, you don't know, and I actually enjoy that because you always have to think on your feet and you always have to, be ready for what could happen, and that I enjoy. I don't always enjoy when it's a bad situation of someone neglecting or abusing their animal, but I do enjoy the fast pace, always changing, and that thinking on your feet and being able to respond and help out. So that is actually, besides getting to see all the different animals that I come in contact with. The other thing, as I always tell people, is I don't mind getting the phone calls. If you see something and you need to let me know, that's a huge way of helping out, is letting me know, because I can't be everywhere at once. And having someone calling in saying, I'm concerned that dog might be being abused or neglected, gives me, it gives me a step up to be able to respond there and give that animal the help it needs and check it out. And it may end up being nothing or it may be something big. So those are the ways I could use the help from the citizens of Hingham.